out and having me spend some time here talking about the county's comprehensive plan. Just briefly, since I know there's some folks who are here who, I know we have a lot of experienced folks here, but there may be some folks that aren't as experienced about the comprehensive plan. So I want to share a little bit about the state legal requirements regarding the comp plan, basically the roles and responsibilities that we have on the Planning Commission. Talk a little bit about the process of how we update the plan. That's the process we're in right now. And then provide a current status of the comp plan update, where we're at, basically. And then I want to mention a few items that we may be looking at here for inclusion into the comp plan in the future and stuff. I'm going to start by saying that I set some ground rules for myself. The first one is, if I don't know an answer to something when we get to the Q&A session, I'm going to let you know. Kim and I have agreed that we'll go ahead and record those questions, and then I'll be able to get them into the county to be able to see if they can respond to those questions and stuff. But you know, I'm not the expert on all things, so if I don't know the answer, I'm going to state so. The second thing is, there may be some folks on here that are looking for me to comment on cases, ongoing cases in the county, and I'm just going to respectfully not comment on any cases or speculate, because first of all, I don't have a crystal ball. The second part of it is that I'm only one of 8 planning commissioners and stuff. So I don't know what the thoughts of all 8. Typically, we don't know those kinds of things until we have meetings or work sessions and stuff. So anyway, and in my final note before I get into the legal requirements is, you know, from a planning commissioner perspective, I've been asked on several occasions, you know, why is it that Bill Milne doesn't make any motions at a hearing and stuff. So. And you know, I will let you know my role as a chairman, my responsibility is simply to ensure that the meetings are scheduled appropriately, they're held fairly, and they're run efficiently in a manner that serves everyone who lives or works in our county. So, you know, I certainly appreciate the work of the staff and certainly my peers, and then most of all the citizens who are willing and certainly spend no effort to engage in the process, whatever that is and stuff. So. With that being said, let me get into the legal requirements briefly here. You know, State Code of Virginia outlines the legislative intent when it comes to the laws and statutes that every county or town or city is supposed to follow, especially when it comes to planning, zoning, and subdivision of land within the boundaries, which is the topic tonight, basically what goes into the comprehensive plan. And in order to plan, zone, or subdivide laws, the law mandates that every local government prepare and adopt a comprehensive plan. And I'm going to read this quote to you that the comprehensive plan should provide a guideline for future development and systematic change reached after consultation with experts and the public. And I want to key on the public a little bit here because that's all of you. That's the 8 of us who are on the commission and certainly the supervisors. And I'm not going to get into a debate about who is an expert and who isn't. That's, you know, not in my bailiwick. But anyway, the code goes on to say that each locality by resolution or ordinance is required to create a planning commission. And you have 8 on your planning commission. So your commission was originally established by the board in April of 1954. And then it was reestablished in 1972. And we currently have 8 appointed members to the Planning Commission. So into the comp plan, it's supposed to articulate the goals, the policies that the Board of County Supervisors rely on to make an informed land use decision, and maybe decisions that involve investments in public infrastructure. It's a blueprint, as I had mentioned earlier, it's a blueprint for creating a quality of life in our community in order to promote the development, present or future needs of our citizens. And I want to emphasize here, that includes the elderly and persons with disabilities. And the reason I bring it up here is because I'm going to talk about that later when we talk about the future, what might go into the comprehensive plan. So, all right, the commission operate under a set of bylaws. They're posted online and they're available for the public to see. So this is, if you will, the public's accountability of us. If they review the bylaws, they know what we should be doing and stuff. And since I've been on the commission, the bylaws have been reviewed every year. And over the past 2 years, once it's been reviewed, it has been signed by each commissioner. So we last reviewed the our bylaws in February of this year. It was approved in March, and because of COVID-19, I suspect that the most recent bylaws are not posted as of yet. But anyway, so our role, what is our role as a planning commission? We're here to serve primarily in an advisory capacity to the board, unless we adjudicate actions related to public facility reviews. So where the planning commissioner is the approving body for those. And I can get a little bit more into that in a second, but the state code and our bylaws not only require us to prepare and recommend a comp plan for physical development of the county, but we're required to review that plan every 5 years. And we are in that process right now. And I can tell you, since my time on the commission, which is since January of 2016, it seems like we are always reviewing some aspect of the plan in order to manage the dynamic change here within the county and stuff. So we started our current 5-year review in October of 2016 with the hope that we would accomplish that, in an 18-month to 2-year time frame. Well, folks, it is 2020, and we are still working on it. And a lot of that has to do, I think, with a lot of public comment and a lot of the dynamic changes within the county, especially the growth and stuff. So anyway, just real quick with a public facilities request, we are approval or disapproval based on approximate location, character, and extent of parks, streets, those kinds of things, all public facilities. So you think about schools, libraries, fire and rescue, police stations, et cetera, and stuff. So, okay, let's talk about, I promised Kim I'd talk about updating the plan. Oh, I wanted to make a note before I talk about updating the plan. Amending the comprehensive plan is a serious action, and it shouldn't be taken lightly either by any of the members of the commission or the board of supervisors. The criteria for evaluating these amendments and the rationale for such should be pretty strong. And that's Bill Milne's note there and stuff. And there may be others who don't feel that way, but that's kind of how I feel. It should be a serious action. So, okay, updating the plan. Again, we talked about the blueprint, creating a quality of place, quality of community, quality of life. So it typically begins with a concept from the staff. When we talk about process of updating the plan, sometimes, most times they'll connect with the stakeholders. They'll talk to citizens, collect citizen input, collect input from all places. Then they'll typically provide the board, and typically the planning commission first and the board will give presentations, and sometimes they'll come from COG, whether it's on regional demographics or economic development or something like that. We had a recent one on housing. Part of the process of updating the plan is reviewing the existing conditions and the growing trends within the county and the region. We review ongoing revitalization. So think about Highway 1, the whole corridor change on Highway 1. Or we'll review transportation efforts. Think about the Route 28 study or the Bi-County Parkway issue that we went through a couple of years ago. We also incorporate elements of existing studies, and we have several studies that we've taken into account when we prepare the comprehensive plan, and that, and we'll talk about that in the end as to what has been accomplished so far. We look at future requirements of the county, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when I talk about the things we're thinking about adding into the plan. We also we're reviewing the old sector plans, but now what we're doing is we're reviewing those by incorporating what we call a small area plan. And I'll talk about where we're at with that status as well, what we've accomplished and where we want to go. We look at cultural resources, rural preservation, levels of service. And then, like I said, there are other examples of pulling in COG to give us kind of a regional aspect. I think two that come to mind is we had a recent one from Paul Desjardins on what COG was hoping the county would accept an additional 7,000 housing units above and beyond what we already have scheduled and stuff. So that's a brief that the board got. I saw that and I had asked for it to come to the commission. And stuff. So anyway, once all that stuff's been gathered, then we have stakeholder meetings that usually follow by request for public input, and that we can talk about how that happens. most folks know, but if not, I can certainly provide that. It's followed by the staff typically providing an initial draft document. It gets brought before the commission as a work session. And again, that's at that point advisory, letting us know what's going on. And maybe we can ask a few questions. We might have a follow-on work session at that point. But this is kind of where the citizens begin to get more bites at the apple, if you will, and using that term. They are allowed to provide the input online when they hear about something that's going on. Before the commission even hears about it. They attend the work sessions. They get to hear the planning commissioner's questions. They don't typically use that time period to have comment, although I've allowed it when we talk about the rural area. Don't want to spend too much time on that tonight, but maybe others will. So sometimes, most times, it's more for the work sessions, more for the planning commissioners to ask their questions. That allows the citizens at that point, if they're attending, they should be logging questions of their own. They should be sending them to their planning commissioners or to their supervisors or to the staff. And this is before we even get to a hearing. So that's sort of a 1 or 2 bites of the apple. Then the next chance will be the public comment hearing. Public comment during the hearings. And some of you have experienced this, if we defer a case or we close out a case, with no more public comment, I have allowed public comment during citizens' time on the case. Because especially since if we deferred it, there's probably been a significant change or we've required more action, and I think the citizens should have a right to comment on that as well. Okay, and then the third chance or fourth chance, depending on how you view it, is you get the citizens' time at the box hearing when that comes up. Okay, enough of that stuff. All right, where are we at today? So today, yes,
Bill,
go ahead, Kim.
can I add one opportunity? A lot of groups, including Prince William Conservation Alliance, have community meetings
about
the comp plan, and that's another opportunity for citizens to participate.
It is. Now, I would ask him, how do I get it from, say, meetings you hold to, or civic associations? I know how civic associations get it to the commission. How would your organization get information to us?
In a very similar manner, and we would also hope you'd attend like you are tonight.
Okay, all right. Well, great. I appreciate that. So, okay, where are we at today with the comprehensive plan updates? As many of you know, we've approved, as has the board, the educational plan, which was the old schools and separate library plans, but now it's an educational plan and it includes secondary education. We've approved the Parks, Recreation, and Tourism, which the tourism piece was recently added to Parks and Rec, so we've completed that chapter, approved by, and these that I'm giving you have been approved by both the commission and the board. The Safe and Security Community Plan has been approved. That's the justice, fire rescue, public safety, communications, etc. So just as a reminder, planning commissioners do take into consideration, as does the staff, studies that have been asked of or in the planning stages or whatever when they decide to adopt a comprehensive plan. As an example, we have completed and approved and implemented studies for the Cockpit Point battlefield study in early 19. We had the Marine Corps base Quantico joint land use study, which was completed in May of 19. We did recently the Bristow Station Kettle Run study was approved by the commission in 19. I don't believe that's been to the board yet. And then also we leveraged a small area plan. So we've completed the North Woodbridge plan in October of last year, the landings at Prince William, formerly known as the Parkway Employment Center, that was done in November of last year. And then the Dale City piece was done in December, our last meeting of last year. Okay, so that's kind of where we're at with things we have done. I can address some of the things that we have yet to look at or things that are coming up, but under future items under consideration, and this goes back to Kim, I think you had asked me specifically what kinds of things were we looking at. So, so number one is autonomous vehicles. And should it be part of the transportation plan or the section? Number 2 is senior living centers. We have all kinds of different types of senior living here in Prince William County. And frankly, those who stay attuned to what's going on as far as what the Planning Commission and Board here, we've approved a lot of different types of senior living here recently in my time on the board and stuff. In fact, the most recent one was the Hawthorne Facility, which is basically designed for 70, 80, 90-year-olds who don't need help. They want to live on their own, but they don't want to live in a single family home and stuff. So in fact, my mom is interested in living in one of these kinds of places. We're looking at disability services, and is our level of service right? Do we have a level of service needs for disability type services? We're looking at age restricted housing and universal design projects. And then one that you're all familiar with is affordable housing and workforce housing. We believe should be items that would end up in the comprehensive plan. So that's sort of a future items under consideration. And I have yet to hear anybody give us a, what do I want to say? What is affordable housing? What does it mean? What does it look like? Because to some people, you know, $400,000 is affordable. I can tell you that's not affordable for a lot of people and stuff. So anyway, and I'm not going to get into debating what the number is, but it's certainly, we need to worry about affordable housing, workforce housing and stuff. So that's where I'll stop. We've been in for 20 minutes. That'll give more time for comments and stuff. Kim, do you want me to go to your questions and answer the best I can, or do you want to just have comments from the citizens first?
So why don't we start with the questions that were pre-submitted, and maybe you can go over that and we can take the conversation from there. When we do go to the conversation, everybody should be on mute. And do you see the button that says raise your hand? And that way we know you want to talk.
Where's the button that says raise your hand? Oh, well. Anyway, I'll go ahead and start with the questions that were previously submitted to me.
Wait a second, Sarah, you have a comment?
Yes. I think if you go into participants, there's a list of participants, and at the bottom, there's a little button you can click that says raise hand.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so the questions that were submitted to me, I can answer, I think, a fair amount of them. I don't know if I can answer all of them, simply because some of those may be far beyond the level and probably more suited for maybe some county folks to answer, or even some of the supervisors. But so the first question is, will the Planning Commission hold public hearings on priorities for transportation projects submitted by the county for NVTA, VDOT, the Commonwealth Transportation Board, so there can be public involvement and transparency in preparing mobility proposals starting in 2021? It's a great question. So from the Planning Commissioner's perspective, the bottom line is no, we are not part of the process. We don't get to recommend transportation improvements to the board. It's strictly a BOCS, a Board of County Supervisors process. They have a process for requesting projects and associated funding. And once the board approves those projects, the county applies for funding. And it should be noted that the county, this is what I've been told, the board does not prioritize the projects or the request, nor does the county submit the projects in any priority order and stuff. So the bottom line is the Planning Commission does not get involved with the transportation projects being submitted for funding at these various sources. Okay, and then the next question was, a small area plan is being initiated for Triangle Dumfries. How will the Planning Commission ensure land use and mobility proposals at the Triangle Dumfries are synchronized in the small area plan and the 2040 comp plan? Okay, as another good, these are all great questions, by the way. So the Triangle Dumfries Small Area Plan was recommended for initiation in the comp plan back in 2016. The planning office will bring the land use chapter and the mobility plan together for recommendation at the same time, and that will be later in the fall, I'm hoping. Okay, we've been kind of restricted in our COVID-19 health issues that we're trying to deal with. But anyway, the Triangle Dumfries Small Area Plan is not tracking in advance of the land use to mobility chapters. So as with any comprehensive plan amendment, conflicting plans will be amended once the comp plan is adopted. So therefore, the long range land use and mobility plan will be adopted to match the Triangles Dumfries Small Area Plan when it is adopted. So it's the same for any comprehensive plan amendment. And I know for some folks, they may think that that's kind of backwards, that we should do it all together. The problem is that the things are constantly changing, and it seems like we're always adding a small area plan and stuff. And I'm not sure if there's a way to rectify it, to get it all together at the same time or not. But it's the same thing for, there's a small area plan for Yorkshire. The Route 28 studies will be completed and a solution to fix 28 will be recommended. How will the 2040 comprehensive plan align with the two? And will the Yorkshire small area plan be updated to assure the county synchronizes land use and mobility? And again, yes, Yorkshire, the bottom line is Yorkshire small area plan is being coordinated with the Route 28 plan. And just as the previous question, yeah, the land use chapter will be updated when the small area plan is adopted for Yorkshire stuff. So, okay, the next question says, will the Planning Commission consider requesting, let's see if I get this right, the Metropolitan Washington Council of Government, so we'll just call it COG from here on out. Will the Planning Commission consider requesting COG to designate the Triangle Dumfries as an activity center as part of the 2040 comprehensive plan to facilitate extension of the Blue Line to Quantico? Okay, so I had a big long response to this. Activity centers, I think people know those locations accommodate majority of the region's future growth. And it's a key role in advancing what COG calls the region's forward vision of prosperity, sustainability, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they typically include existing urban centers, priority growth, traditional towns, transit hubs, and stuff. So the Triangles Dumfries, as we know, is right off of I-95. So I don't know if many know, the activity centers were considered visionary back by the Transportation Board in '98. The first version of the map was approved in 2002. It was updated in 2013. So at that point in 13, these activity centers were kind of smaller and more compact, more walkable. So, and apparently they were more aligned with the regional's transit network. So back to the question here of, will the Planning Commission? So the Planning Commission does not get involved in requesting an area be an activity center. That activity is done by the COG, the planning director's technical advisory committee, which we have a member on there, or someone on our staff, or several on our staff. That information gets forwarded to the COG board. The process is not something the Planning Commission participates in, nor is something that COG does on a frequent basis. And so I would say, based on the initial 2002 version and then the 2013 version, it looks like it's a process that occurs every 10 years or so. But I was not able to find exactly online what COG does or how often they do it. So again, I just want to say it's not a process that goes through the PWC board either. The board members, there's someone on the, either one or two board members are appointed to the COG, and I think there's actually several committees that various members are appointed to. And I think Mr. Supervisor Anger, who's online, he may be able to help us out with that question. But the planning office will be considering updates to include activity centers as they forward it to this this committee, this board, or whatever they call it, the Director's Technical Advisory Committee. So that's how it might be.
Supervisor Angry has joined us.
No, sir.
Hello, everybody. I was late, but I made it.
So the question, is several of you sit on different COG committees or boards, correct?
Yes, that's correct. So Chair Wheeler sits on the COG, and then like I'm on the TPB, the Transportation Planning Board, and so they have a few kind of offspring various boards like that that many of the members sit on, but it all ties back to the COG.
Okay. All right, the next question is, in its deliberations on the comprehensive plan, how much weight will be given by the Planning Commission to the COGS plan, which is PwC's signatory? And as Supervisor Engry just mentioned, our chair sits on COG, so, but I'm not really sure how best to answer this question. The board adopts policy such as the comp plan or the strategic plan, and the board and the commission are certainly aware and do cooperate with the Council of Governments in many aspects, whether it's the Transportation Planning Board or the constrained long-range plan that relates to air quality, the Transportation Improvement Program, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know if the question was looking for a percentage, that I don't know. I can tell you that we do work with them. We know they have a Visualized 2045 plan as a guiding document. As I mentioned before, we've had COG come in and brief the board. We've also had the COG come in and brief the Planning Commission 2 or 3 times since I've been on there in my 5 years and stuff. So, and I think I am going to stop there, Kim, with the questions. These other ones on the rural area, I think those are something that somebody at a much higher pay grade needs to be answering than me and stuff. So.
Okay, do we have any opening comments or questions? Oh, this is very hard to believe.
Sorry, can we just ask questions? Like, how does it work? I raise my hand, or did the hand raise?
You raised your hand and you're on, Tiziana.
Oh, okay, thank you. Can I, okay. I was just wondering, and I really don't know the extent of your decisions, but since the Clean Economy Act was passed, which basically will require Virginia to go zero carbon by 2045, and also it was an executive order that required us to go zero carbon. I was just wondering how, if there is anything at all that's moving us towards that goal when it comes to the buildings, like electricity has to be carbon free by 2045. If there's anything at all concerning sustainability and reduction of carbon emissions in the plans, since it's mandated now by the law.
Okay, so that's something we're going to have to write down, Kim, and take, because I am not familiar with the zero carbon by 2045, and I don't believe it's come up in any conversation that we've had on the Planning Commission at this point, but sounds like it should be. So
Definitely, thank you. Yeah, it would be great if
so
somehow.
for everybody who is there during the Q&A, like I said, if I can't answer it, I'll state so as just as a refresher, and then we'll try to record these questions so we can get them back and see if we have answers or if there's things that we need to be taking action on, like this particular one here. So thank you for the question.
So next we have Lisa Jackson, followed by Martin Jeter. Lisa?
Hi, Bill. Lisa Jackson. Quick question in regards to the elderly and the disabled that you were talking about. Facilities were specifically for the disabilities. Is that more towards the older population or for the children? Because Prince William only has the 2 child development centers for children with disabilities, which are constantly on a waiting list and are in great need. So I didn't know if both age groups were being looked at, or just more of the elderly, maybe a community resource center where they would be able to live as adults.
Lisa, I would tell you that the fact that I mentioned it means that we are thinking about it. And I say we, meaning the staff. None of the commissioners, they're probably just as surprised at some of these things that I've mentioned because this is stuff that we were looking down the future. So what I would say is, if there's things that we should be looking at, then you can email me. You have my email. Let me know, and I will pass that along to be incorporated into the plan. I mean, that's what the citizen input's all about and stuff. But I am not familiar with any specificity of any of the new items that the commissioners have yet to even hear about. So again, I first heard about them last week when I started inquiring about what kinds of things are we going to look to put into the comprehensive plan. So that's a good question. So
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, Martin.
Hey, Bill, Martin Jeter.
hey, Martin,
Good to see you. Thanks for doing this tonight. It's informative. Appreciate it.
I see you've grown a beard since I saw you last.
No, I've had this for 3 years. It hasn't
Oh,
been
have
that
you?
long. Since I retired, I got old and grew a beard. Given the fact that transit has been on the decline, public transit ridership's been on the decline across the country and in our area for at least 10 years now, and it's expected that that decline will increase after COVID-19 due to the close proximity of folks on transit and so forth. Are we looking at the comprehensive plan with that in mind, as far as we do a lot of planning in Prince William County and across Northern Virginia with the idea of higher density areas that are served by public transit, and that's a way to put off the impacts of the vehicle impacts and so forth. But it's likely that is going to be changing in the future. How many people actually use transit? I mean, now it's less than 10% of folks that actually use transit, and we're putting in a lot of high density with a lot of folks there, and 90% of them drive cars to work and back. And so in the future, that's probably going to even change to a lower percentage of folks who use transit. So, are we looking at that in the long range planning to when we're putting in the small area plans and we're looking at this kind of thing, are we taking that into consideration, or should we, I guess is a question, just as much as are we?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess it comes down to the point of what state are we in now and how long do we think it's going to last? And will the impacts last 2 or 3 years or longer, or will we be back to normal, say, by 2022 and stuff? And remember, it's when we put the comprehensive plan together, it should be more futuristic and more forward thinking. So yeah, I don't have an answer, Martin.
Yeah, I understand. I guess,
yeah, but I'm logging it because it is kind of interesting. I heard, as an example, I drove by the Pentagon the other day. The parking lot was full, and it took me a few minutes to figure out why it was full. A, only 25% of the people are working in the Pentagon, because my son's one of them. And B, it's because they're all driving. Nobody's taking mass transit.
Yep.
That's why the parking lot's full.
Yeah, and on the other hand, I don't want to dominate, but on the other hand, we're seeing trends now. I just read in the paper today that some of the tech companies, Google and Facebook and other companies, they've already told a lot of their workers that they don't need to come into the office for another year. And this trend is going to accelerate, I think. And so that'll be a good thing as far as transportation and congestion. But autonomous cars is going to make us go the other way, I think, as far as people are going to be more willing to spend time in traffic when they can do whatever they want in their car. They don't even have to drive it. So anyway, just a lot of stuff to think about here.
Well, but it's the same thing when you mentioned office space. A lot of people will now be working at home more regularly.
Yeah.
As a normal course of business. So that even exacerbates the fact of less office space in the county and more something. You know what I'm saying? Because we know office space has been not highly desired at this point, or people don't want to build it. The builders don't want to build it because no one's coming to fill those spaces. So now it could be even exacerbated even more. In fact, we could end up with a lot of vacant buildings, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it could be a problem. So.
Thanks.
Charlie.
Bill, back in 2008, I served on a Citizens Advisory Committee for developing the Transportation Chapter, and the process started with a group of stakeholders doing the draft. Staff was deeply involved and had a major influence, but the citizens had a bigger thumb on the scale before the draft got released for public review and for debate and ultimate adoption.
Mm-hmm.
Do you consider a process like that for the remaining chapters, perhaps public hearings, where you first get citizen input before you start with a public draft developed by staff? That would reduce the natural defensiveness of staff to say their draft was right and now the citizens are trying to change it.
Okay. Yeah, see, by the time the commission gets it, it's hard to know what has transpired to get to that point. Because for a lot of the commission members, what we're unless they've been specifically invited. Like I get invited to all the stakeholder meetings. At that point, there is no draft, but I also know at the stakeholder meetings, the only people I'm dealing with are the county components, if you will, transportation, watershed, those folks and stuff. So I've never seen a process in my time where the community is involved at the stakeholder level. It's usually right after that the community gets involved. You're saying that we should do that together, like you did back in 2008.
The point I'm making is that the most important stakeholders are the citizens of the county, not the staff. Maybe the smartest people in the room starting at the beginning of the process are the staff that are paid to do this for a living. But the folks who really want to shape what this county will look like in 2040 are the citizens. And to design a process that starts with staff is just starting in the wrong place, in my opinion.
Okay, I have made note of that. Thank you.
Let me unmute myself. I don't see anybody. Oh, is your hand up again, Tiziana? While she's looking at that, I have a question for you, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
So, Brittany brought up the pandemic and how things may change, which again is what we're going to talk about next Thursday. One of the things that's been really clear is the importance of green open space close to home and natural area parkland. How is that going to be, that it's not really a new awareness, but open space is a critical component of infrastructure for sustainable communities. And now it's really right in our face that it's really important and very desirable. How will the Planning Commission consider that as you discuss all the chapters of the comp plan?
Well, we'll probably have to go back and readdress the open space issue under land use, because the land use chapter is coming up and stuff. And if if there's citizen input that the open space should be different right now per project. I know that now a little bit is on the supervisors only in the sense that as in the case of Occoquan District, we had taken public land and turned it into parkland, public used land, and turned it into parks and open space land and stuff. And I think, and I would challenge anybody, if there's space out there that's available, that's being considered for something that we can either purchase or convert into a park or open space, that's one thought. I'm remiss to say that, and I'm guilty of voting for a project that turned a park into a school. And I think some of you know what I'm talking about and stuff. Now there's a need for the school, but there's also need for parks and open space and stuff. So I don't know about the rural area in the sense of how those things are going to work out in the end, because I know that there's many interested parties on both sides, either on a development side or on a preserve the green space, preserve the open space. So, anyway, kind of rambling there with that one, Kim. So.
Okay, we have Tom Burrell followed by Elena.
But I want to come back to for everybody. I want to come back to the I'll call it the reopening of the commission. My peers today, I had provided our plan at this point, barring that the governor and the state follow along with the current plans. Our first meeting will be on the 17th of June. We are going to add hearings on following Wednesdays to get caught up because we've had to defer or cancel 5 planning commission hearing meetings and stuff. And so we'll try to get through the process. That said, my peers got the updated schedule today. We're still going to be doing social distancing, masks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there will be more to follow on that. But some folks can plan on the 17th and the 24th of June 24th being added. So I just wanted to mention that. So back to, is it Tom? Was Tom up first?
Yeah, Tom followed by Elena.
Okay.
Hey, Bill, good to see you and congratulations on your chairmanship.
2 years in a row. Thanks.
Yeah. I just want to follow up on the question that Charlie asked because I think it's central to many citizens' concerns about the comprehensive plan. In my opinion, my humble opinion, this comprehensive plan has been under review for many, many, many years, probably at least 2 5-year life cycles of the comprehensive plan. I would recommend that we take a point in time, drive a stake in the ground, say these are the baseline chapters that we're going to review, and then let the supervisors appoint representatives from the various districts to community or citizens advisory groups, and let the citizens have the first bite at the apple. And each of the citizens advisory groups, when we did it, I think in '98, it cost some money because you got to get some moderators to sort of maintain control. But anyway, I mean, Charlie asked the central question to the issues that I have with the comprehensive plan. And then, so to follow up on that, I'll ask the question that I raised my hand on. Where are we? Are we in a 5-year window, or has a 5-year window getting ready to start for review of the comprehensive plan?
So that's a good, so let's go to I'm going to pull this up here. So the 5-year window, the last overhaul of the entire comprehensive plan was 2008, as most everybody knows. Okay, so in 2016, in October, we started the process again with basically the staff saying, hey, here are the things we're going to look at. And here is the time frame we expect to get it done. And I was a year into my first term on the commission. That was in October of 2016. So effectively, we got started in 2017. So looking at the plan holistically, the things we accomplished, the first thing was the technical update that was done in 17. And then it was the cockpit battlefield study, the studies, the Marine Corps thing, the safe and security plan was a chapter, the Bristow Kettle the battlefield study was done, but again, that's not been looked at by the board. And then we got several small area plans that were accomplished. The technology plan was accomplished and signed by the board. The parks, okay, so what's left? So what's left is, and I'll read these things, we have an innovation plan that's yet to be looked at. I think that's something we're looking at here very soon as a work session. The infrastructure facilities plan, we're looking at the Triangle small area plan, Yorkshire small area plan, Fairgrounds small area plan, I don't know anything about that. And then the mobility and land use chapters. And then we have the Independent Hill small area plan that's on there, and then the Route 29 plan. Both the Independent Hill and Route 29 plans came to the Planning Commission, and both were deferred. Independent Hill was deferred because the Planning Commission right up front just said way too dense, and that got deferred to a date uncertain. That'll be bringing back here soon from what I'm told. The Route 29 small area plan was deferred. We'd heard that. We had 3 different work sessions on the Route 29 small area plan before we ended up deferring it to date uncertain, and that was due to a study, which I do not know, a cultural study. I don't know if that's been accomplished yet or not. Again, deferred until that study came into play to see if it would have any impact on the small area plan. And, you know, the historical folks said that there really wasn't an impact, but the commission, because the citizens spoke out and said, hey, let's just wait and see, we deferred it and stuff. So I know there was hope to get this done, even if we were to get it done by the end of the year, which now is aspirational, given that we've lost basically 2 to 3 months, if not more. We could have been done by the end of the year and stuff. now we, meaning the planning commission, the board still would have had to look at each one of these. But again, the board hasn't looked at everything that the planning commission has approved. And then, of course, there's the elephant in the room, and that's the rural area study, which we have had 3 work sessions on. And in those 3 work sessions, we never even got to all 5 aspects of the plan. So, okay, that's where we're at. So Tom, I'm hopeful that we could get something done by the end of the year. At least when we started out the year, I think that's a little bit aspirational now and stuff, but according to what's on the website, if people read that, they would think that we would be done by 2020. So I don't know if we can get there.
Okay, Elena.
Well, Bill, first of all, I want to say you look great. And
that's because I've been out tanning.
thanks so much for doing this. I actually just wanted to follow up with the point that Kim was making about how important open space is
Okay.
to all the citizens right now. Not only their physical health, but their mental health. And I'm thinking about the Woodbridge Small Area Plan just off the top of my head. And as I recall, there was no open space included in that small area plan. Is that correct?
You're asking me to recall something. I would have to go back and look. It's a dense project. Yes. There it goes from T1 to, I think there's a section of T6. So I don't recall there being any parks, if you will. There is in that plan, I think there's an old retired, no longer used golf course. That's part of that plan. I don't know. Cynthia, I'm trying to find you here. So yeah, I see Cynthia. So Cynthia, I suspect if you can give me a nod that the golf course as open space was considered part of that plan.
That's right. That's right. And it goes from T1 to T5.
T5, okay.
And that the golf course there would be a part of open space for the community, but there would also be some higher density development in that area also according to the plan.
Yeah. I think we also have that historic trail going all the way kind of around the northern piece of it through Occoquan, kind of going all the way down over to Woodbridge and down into Potomac. So
right,
that's a small piece of open space, but yeah.
Potomac Heritage National
Yes.
Trail that we see going down along Route 1 and all the way across Fairfax. So it's expensive. The open space aspect of that has been, continues to be enjoyed by the communities. And it's a part of the plan. That was a part of the vision for the comprehensive plan. So you're right.
So for a community that dense, is that going to be sufficient? I guess that's what I'm asking is, are we really starting to think about green open space as the infrastructure for when we approve development?
Good question. I think I'm trying to pull up MUSD in the back of my head here. I'm going to look at, Elena, I'm going to say, let me look at the MUSD is a multi-use zoning district plan, which is supposed to be for these small area plans where they have these dense. Let me look at that because that has not been brought forward to us for approval yet. But let me see if there's the issue you're bringing up sufficiently addressed in MUSD as what the plan would be. Again, a lot of these small area plans are addressing certain things, and North Woodbridge plan being adjacent to I-95 is an area which would normally be more dense than say out in the western rural part of the county and stuff by intent. And so maybe open space isn't as available percentage-wise as it would be out in the rural area. Yeah.
And yet what you'll find is that that's going to be a critical part, I think, of sustainable quality communities moving forward. I think just because you're in a more dense development doesn't mean they can't recreate some of that green space. And just a final point, I believe if memory serves me correctly, the Parks and Open Space chapter the way we're now calculating open space is as the county as a whole, not per district. So my concern is that people who are in more developed suburban urban areas are not going to have the same access. And I think that should be of concern.
Yeah, you're right. It was a concern, being a resident of Occoquan, as is maybe some others, and Kim, we were concerned that that's how the plan was going to go forward, because we felt like it was short-sighted for, a bit short-sighted for Occoquan and Woodbridge specifically, those two, because those are kind of the more dense areas. And when you think about open space and health and safety, all you got to do is look at the highest 3 zip codes for COVID, and it's 22193, 22192, and 22191. And 2 of those areas, there is a incredible density of apartments, townhomes, and condos and stuff. You know, and I live in the 22192, and most homes are single family, but where you have the condos, the townhomes, and the apartment buildings is where you have the highest COVID. And the interesting part about it is it's ironic that that's where some people can afford to live. You know, that's where affordable housing comes in when you're talking about townhomes and condos and stuff. So how do you mix safety, health, open space, vibrant life, and yet at the same time provide affordable housing and stuff? So that's a challenge. So.
Yeah, and I would actually like to add to that a little bit, because I know in the Parks chapter, it recommends that everyone have a natural area park, neighborhood park, within a 10-minute walk. But I don't see anything that is going to help the county accomplish that goal.
Okay.
Which would seem to spread through the whole comprehensive plan. Okay, I don't see any hands up right now, so I think I'm going to take a minute to ask, Mr. Flory, are you still here? Or did he drop out? Oh, right as I was getting to him. I don't see me. Maybe he got knocked off and he'll be back. Any other questions, comments?
Kim?
Yeah.
Somebody mentioned early on in the Q&A about zero emissions by 2045. Is that a federal law? I can only find
It's a state law. It's the Clean Economy Act.
the clean. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And that, you know, just segueing to that, just is there anything regarding sustainability in general at all, or is sustainability has it ever been considered, or is it going to be considered in any way?
I didn't hear the question.
I was just wondering what role sustainability plays in when, you know, making decisions, if it does play any roles, and if it does, what role? Like if sustainability is ever considered, or if there is plans to consider it, because I know with the new board, it's going to be a priority for some of the supervisor, and which I hope includes Mr. Ingley as well. So.
Did I hear the question?
Sustainability, like solar, electrification of transportation, just cleaner, greener communities.
So allow me to put my different hat on for a minute. I also sit on the Architectural Review Committee for the largest HOA in the county, the LRPRA, which is in Occoquan, and I think it's just Occoquan and stuff. So I can tell you there are a lot of residents who are applying for solar panels on their roofs, and we have approved every single one of them.
Great. I know it's very complicated though. We have a lot of paperwork, and just like I heard, there is like complaints that it takes so long. There's so much huge amount of just logistic and paperwork to go through before they can get it compared to other counties, and that it needs to be streamlined. I don't know if that's anything that you work on, or it's out of your hands. The process of putting.
I don't know if the county has. I don't think the county approves solar panel installation. You talking about on single family homes or?
That and yeah, in general, when people want to put solar in their home, I know the process itself is very burdensome, and it needs to be streamlined. That's what I've heard from people that have applied, and it takes months and months when it really shouldn't. I just don't know, if it's anything that you work on or if it's kind of off your hands.
I don't work on it, other than what I do for the LRPRA HOA Association, in that sense. But if there is a permitting issue with the county, I can send that question out.
Great, thank you.
Can I chime in? Can I just chime in a little bit?
You
So
bet.
you can do anything you want.
All right, because Tiziana, we've had a great talk about this, and she came out to one of my meetings with Northern Virginia Regional Commission. So they, on that commission, they, it's a regional thing, but they do a lot of what Tiziana's talking about with the solar energy and green light emission, all this stuff. And one of the things that Prince William County is noted for on that commission, when you look at it, is that we're a donut hole. Like, we haven't invested any real money in green energy or trying to do things efficient. So that's a real target that we need to focus on. And that's I invited her to that. I invited Tiziana to that meeting to kind of hear a little bit more. So I've been working with Bob, the CEO there, so we can actually try to figure out what we need to draft up for the county to really be a part of trying to help out with solar. We got this whole big thing with data centers. I know that's a topic of discussion, but one of the things about data centers that we could really do efficiently with them is put solar on top of these buildings, and have an opportunity to try to capture, this energy and just be a part of the process as a whole. So it's a whole lot discussion with that. I think that's why, Tiziana, we need to get you on some board to help facilitate how that goes forward for the county. So
it doesn't exist, so we need to create one. Thank you, though. I appreciate it. And even electrification of transportation, that kind of thing. Yeah. But that's thank you. I appreciate it.
On that note, can I also say one more thing? Because I think it was Martin that asked the question about the long range plan and transportation. Was that you, Martin? And you asked, was it the question was, are we looking at transportation because of the situation with COVID-19?
Yes, that was me. Yes.
And I agree with you. I would say we definitely need to look at that because the landscape is completely changed, and it's going to be changed for a long time. So if you look at like our bus system, PRTC is had to be basically bailed out, from federal, because the ridership is down, and ridership is going to be down because, we held on as long as we could. But, when you start talking about social distancing, how many people can you really put on a bus for it to be efficient, right? So it's a whole new world of how we're going to have to talk about even, if you just use North Woodbridge, the small area and the build out there, that thing was all designed around, transportation, and it was going to get everybody out. And, that model has changed because now we are going to stick to this model right here with the video conferencing. You got businesses going to be working at home. You just mentioned about Amazon and all the big, corporations telling their people a year they're going to be working from home. And that's going to become a norm. So with that norm, to your point, Bill, we got a problem with, big companies and brick and mortar buildings. And so this is a whole new discussion we got to have, because what is going to be now, when we start talking about a 35% business tax rate and trying to get revenue from this, this is, I don't have the answer, but I can tell you it's going to be a heck of a discussion. And those are great points you brought up.
Can just say one more thing. The plan the state has now to go to 100% renewables. I don't know a lot about that yet. I haven't gotten a lot of detail on that, but it was a really great thing, I think, that the governor did and the legislature did. But one of the components of that is land use. They specifically state, I don't have the details yet, but they specifically talk about land use, because one of the big contributors to global warming is vehicle transportation, and we're going to have to redo our land use for that. So as we're talking here, if we're going to build these really intense areas that are dependent on transit to reduce CO2, and we're not going to use transit anymore, then what are we doing? So, but
Right.
I'm glad you're on the same page.
Okay, now we have Mark Schufler, followed by Charlie, followed by Martin.
Kim, I'm done now. That was.
Oh, you're done? Okay, then
Thank you.
Mark Schufler, followed by Charlie.
I had a question on Route 28. Is the Planning Commission going to revisit, that, I guess, the project, or as far as, what is going on? Are they going to have a meeting, a public hearing on that about, where that's going? Because it's a major project that affects a lot of people, and it's potentially going to be a major cost to county taxpayers. I was wasn't sure if that was something that the commission was going to hear soon, because we've been waiting, I think, 18 years now for the county to make a decision on what they're going to do with Route 28, and try to revitalize Yorkshire, and we keep waiting for this project to be done. And I just wasn't sure if the Planning Commission was ever going to have a hearing on this or work session, to kind of finalize this and move forward.
Okay, Kim, I only got a small part of that.
Yeah, Mark, there was like an internet slowdown or something. Can you repeat the first part of what you said?
Sure. I just wanted, can you guys hear me?
It's the same thing again. Do you have a shaky connection?
Anyway, while Mark's checking on that, let me go back to Elena on a question about the green and open space. So we had a couple of applications that had LEEDs building type efforts going on. And here's what happened. They both failed to get by the bank. The bank would not fund them or finance them because they said LEEDs projects are too expensive. And so developers were not able to move out in that arena, which I think is very unfortunate, because one of those was, somebody knows, right across the street from the Boston Market there on Smoketown, which the entire level was going to be wide open. There was going to be green. It was going to be basically a little mini park on top next to a wide open all glass facility for like 200 or 300 people to be able to hold like conventions and stuff. And my last job was in a LEEDs building and stuff, and it was wonderful. And from the sky, you didn't know the building existed. Oh, we got a dog joining us. So anyway, so I don't know, Mark, if you're able to come back up on a line, but I wanted to answer another question I saw somebody post here. I think it's from Michelle, or no, Michael, is it Rollband? Adding broadband is, so the broadband piece is in the current telecommunications plan and stuff. So that's the first part of it. It says that we put it, say adding broadband as a specific element of infrastructure in the comp plan. I don't know about the infrastructure piece. We did put some verbiage in there about broadband county-wide in the comprehensive plan, in the chapter that's telecommunications. So I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, if it's not robust enough or not. It could be a question. So
I'll have to ask my supervisor, because I've been talking to her a lot about it and she didn't appear to be aware of that.
Yeah, we just recently approved, actually, I'm going to pull it up here for you. It is in the, what they call the technology and connectivity plan. It was a chapter that was approved by us October last year and approved by the board in November. So your new supervisor may, if I'm assuming a new supervisor, I'm not exactly sure where you live, may not be aware. I'm sorry, Coles?
No, Brentsville.
Oh, Brentsville.
Yeah, and so now you have in the comp plan, why isn't the county trying to actually implement it? For example, the federal government gave grant money to the state, and Prince William County last fall failed to even apply for the grants. There's $18 million available in Virginia.
That's a good question.
Yeah,
And
I talked to Janine about it, and she couldn't believe me, and she found out it was true, that no one in Prince William County is actually trying to implement this plan. And now with the pandemic, it kind of illustrates the fact that having a more robust cell phone network and broadband network could help other aspects of our community, both educationally as well as socioeconomically.
Okay, yeah.
So
Plan is there, so that's interesting. That's a good catch, actually. And
so we need, I mean, I've been talking to her a lot, and Rob Whitman, our congressman, and it's just not, you know, people are shocked like that we're not doing it. So somehow, hopefully, I think Victor Angry is one of our board members, you know, maybe we can start actually trying to do things, because when we talk about environmental impacts, this is another way to hopefully reduce our environmental impacts. And then you also mentioned, I'll follow up on LEED. I'm surprised that there was a financing problem, because I built the first LEED Gold building in Virginia in Gainesville in 2005. And there are lenders that actually gave me a lower interest rate because it was LEED Gold. And so you have to go to the right lenders. So if you want to do it, you can do it. I did it 15 years ago now, and people are still coming for tours. American Society of Civil Engineers is trying to remodel their site to mimic our site for low impact development. And it's just amazing to me that 15 years ago I can do it, and today we're still hearing excuses. I think if people really want to make things happen in the environmental area, such as LEED and LID development, you can do it. You just have to do it the right way.
Yeah, do you think, so you said 15 years ago, so that was before the financial crisis, and then the banks had to tighten up. Do you think that's part of it?
No, the interest rates are much more favorable, and the social aspects of having LEED products is much more favorable. Yeah. So I think I just wonder when someone uses that as an excuse. Yeah, things are more expensive, but there's maybe LEED Platinum isn't economically viable in Prince William County, but LEED Gold probably is, and LEED Silver definitely is, because you can get LEED Silver now just by meeting the building code requirements with a few little tweaks.
Yeah, I had tried to help the person out by knowing a person on a bank board who looked at the project, and he validated the fact that based on the project and the parameters of the project, his bank board wouldn't have funded it either. And this is a pretty reputable guy that most of you know. I won't name his name, but so anyway.
There are lenders though that specialize that want to put capital in this area. So anyway.
Okay, all right.
I could bend your ear forever.
There is also the C-based program that is like a third party. Well, that's up to the board, but I'm just going to mention that there is a C-based program is for financing clean energy, I guess, improvement on infrastructures for private companies. So.
Okay.
Okay, we have Charlie followed by Elena.
So I want to follow up on a point that Martin and Bill have been discussing a little bit. If the impact of this COVID-19 causes a change in our land use patterns, change in where people want to live, and if we actually decide to follow through and build out broadband to make it possible for us to provide good access across the county, it's going to change the population projections for the county. People might choose to live in Roanoke and Winchester rather than to live here. The driver for our transportation chapter and our land use chapter are the population projections. The county works them out with COG. Those 7,000 additional houses were negotiated between the county planning office and COG. So in order for us to know how much we need to plan for road capacity, other mobility capacity, housing, additional housing, we got to have a good number for population projections. So it might be appropriate to consider pausing what we're doing in our planning process until you get a revisit for population projections and work with the Transportation Planning Board, work with COG, and then build your comprehensive plan against the number that really matters, the population projection.
Right. All right, I wrote that down. Elena.
You're on. Wait,
You got to unmute her.
I'm
You're
trying.
muted.
Unmute. It won't unmute.
It won't unmute.
There,
Oh,
there
now.
you go.
Am I, I think I'm unmuted now.
Yes,
are.
you are.
I just, I wanted to just share a little bit about the difficulty in going solar as a residential homeowner in Prince William County. And if you really want to talk about becoming carbon neutral or more environmentally conscious, we need to change like now, because the process that we went through to put in our ground mounted solar panel was a nightmare. It could not have been more challenging. They didn't understand the plans. It was like if it wasn't a cookie cutter on your roof, then the staff couldn't understand what we were submitting. And then it ended up costing us almost a little more than $1,200 in permits. That's completely unacceptable. So we have to figure out how to incentivize not only on a local level, but a state level. So I would love to help make that happen and use our experience as what we need to change to make it easier for homeowners. And I mean, to have to spend $1,200 is a lot of money that was not expected. So I think we've got to figure out how to do better in Prince William County.
Elena, the struggles you had, was that with the permitting process by the county, or was it a state issue?
It was all the county.
Okay. Well, Supervisor Embry is here listening, and I'm sure he and I are going to have a discussion here in the near distant future.
And to that, I just want to say, because Tiziana brought up a great point with CPACE, is that we're one of the only counties that don't have that agreement to really help out in a lot of this area that we're discussing. So we actually, before all this COVID-19, we were working, we have a contract, and I think we need to get back to really getting that in place, because it really helps with a lot of what you're saying, and it'll definitely help to a lot of what Tiziana's saying. And so you, Mr. Michael Rolban, I really want to talk with you more. So I put my information in the chat box, and hoping that you can email me so we can talk a little more. I need a lot more education on this, but this is an area that we can do better in. And so with the new board, and I'm not going to say anything about the old board, but I think that with the new board, new ideas coming. So this is one that we should have jumped on a long time ago. But again, if you look at the area around Northern Virginia, Prince William County is really a donut hole to everything we're talking here with lead and energy efficient. So.
Thank you. And I'll follow up on Elena. I put at the time, the largest solar system on a rooftop in Virginia on my office with the Obama stimulus package. And then at my farm, I have a house. I have 2 solar systems. We're net zero at the farm, and it was an excruciating experience every time. But actually, the county wasn't nearly as bad as Dominion Power and the 2 different companies I've used. But the whole process was a terrible experience, and I'm relatively involved in that kind of stuff.
Oh, you need to talk, you and my husband need to talk, because he has ideas about how to make it easier to transition for homeowners once they've built their home. I mean, just at the box itself. Right. And in some ways, how to make every home solar ready as soon as they move in. So you don't have to mess with Novec, having to come out. I mean, obviously it's made difficult so that people won't do it. I mean, that's my feeling right now.
Well, I did find, so I have my building, my office is in Novec, and my house and farm are in Dominion. Novec is way easier because you can just go talk to them. But the county could also help. You know, I think of how the county got me to move my office from Fairfax to Prince William. They made me a targeted green industry, and they gave me 30-day guaranteed permit processing period. So I was able to, from start to finish, to design the building, get it approved and built in just about a little over a year, which is record warp speed. And so, but Sean Connaughton gave me a cell phone number, said, you got a problem with anyone in the review process, you call me and I'll take care of it. And he said something different words. but and he did a couple of times, and you know, and the head of public works told me to take those comments and shred them and forget it, it's approved. I mean, it's, so you really need, if you want it, you can get it as a leader. And the key is, like on the fees, if you want solar, why charge the stupid building permit fees? Okay.
$1,200.
Yeah,
I mean, that's outrageous.
and so you cut the fee, you don't charge it because this is what you want, and then you guarantee 5-day processing or 2-day processing. Now I will say you have to have someone review it, because the second company I used, they didn't do the right things on their plans, and so if the county hadn't reviewed it, we would have had an electrical issue. So there is a need for oversight,
Yes.
but it could be minimized.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
If we want it. And I think it's a great, I think we do. I mean, personally. So I've got 2 rooftops and 1 ground mount.
Ah, cool. Awesome.
Okay, Mark Schufler, do you want to give it another
All right,
try?
so more stuff moving.
So I have Mark had basically asked the question, so I'll read it, Mark, on your behalf. He said,
Okay.
the Planning Commission be revisiting the Route 29 project.
28.
The Planning Commission doesn't review transportation projects unless it's related to a development request. You know, for instance, like I think a Klein project is one where the Route 28 project has come up several times as maybe beneficial to allow that project to go forward or something like that. So we don't get involved in the project. We have been briefed on the project in its early stages. This was before they had to do the impact analysis and stuff. That was like 3 years ago. We have not been briefed on it since, but we don't revisit in a sense of a voting or one way or the other. I think that rests with the board, if I'm not correct, Supervisor Angry. Is that correct? Yep, okay. So does that answer your question?
I was just wondering, because, you know, it has the potential to take a number of houses, and I wasn't sure how that affected the land use around that area. So that was kind of my own, I wasn't sure if there was an opportunity for citizens to speak up as far as, you know, if there's a potential that, you know, there's a significant number of houses being taken for the project. So.
Well, there will be time for citizens to comment, but it'll be at the Board of County Supervisors hearing. Whenever that might be.
Okay, Charlie, do you have something else to say? Did I miss that? No?
My bad, left my hand up.
And your hand, okay, so go for it. So yes or no? Oh.
So let me add one more question for Bill.
Yes.
We have a strategic plan, which in the planning hierarchy, you start with your strategic vision and your goals, and then you work your way down to objectives and action strategies. What's the relationship between the comprehensive plan and the strategic plan?
So good question. Give me a second. I actually have what that's supposed to look like, if I can find it. So there's a diagram that it was developed, I think it was given to us back in October of 2016. And all it says is, it's a block chart. So it says strategic plan at the top, and then the things that fill the strategic plan. One of them is the comprehensive plan. Within that is the infrastructure plan, a level of services. Then there's a zoning piece, there's a capital improvement program, and then there's the budget and stuff. So I think if we were seriously doing long-range planning in that scope of it, I'm not sure we've done a good job of linking, if you will, the word linking, a comprehensive plan, at least at my level, at Bill Milne level. So let me make it Bill Milne level. Maybe my peers have done a better job of linking the comprehensive plan to the strategic plan and stuff. But I don't think generally we do a good job of that. So, but there is a block diagram that just shows that that's sort of the hierarchical strategic plan, and then things fall into place underneath it. One of them being the comprehensive plan, and then an infrastructure plan, and within that, a level of service plan. And then it even goes further down to, like I said, capital improvements and budget. So
let me offer a suggestion for how you might make that happen.
okay.
Take a look at your comprehensive plan,
Mm-hmm.
chapters you've done, like the broadband component and the telecommunications chapter.
Mm-hmm.
See if there's a direct link back to something that's in the vision statement or something that's in the strategic plan.
Oh,
If
okay.
there's no connection, then don't give it positive points. And if there is a connection, give it positive points.
Yeah, I wish Rebecca was online because, you know, now that you mentioned that, what you just said, when we review various chapters and when we are given a brief, I bet you if we went back online and pulled off some of the briefs that have been given to the Planning Commission, it shows that linkage. It lists certain things. Just like when you look at the capital improvement program, when you look at that budget and in there, it ties, okay, it meets this piece of the comprehensive plan, it meets this piece of the strategic plan. You know, we get the same thing when we're doing comprehensive plan pieces and stuff. So there is a linkage. Maybe it's not readily available to the public, but I know what you're saying now that you mentioned that. Yes.
And I think it's worth examining not just the fact that somebody checks the box and says that it's connected, but legitimately, is there a relationship? If you look at like the Route 28 project, what's the relationship of the Route 28 project to achieve the vision of creating live, work, play communities in Prince William County, opposed to help commuters from Culpeper drive through Prince William County? So if you were to actually give yourself a great sheet and start matching our projects in the CIP or our proposals in the comp plan to what we said in the strategic plan, I think you might find that there's a lot of failing grades.
Yeah. Yeah. One area of the failing grade is if we put stuff in the comprehensive plan that is no way financially achievable. I get it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is the same thing we did in the government. We did it all the time in the military. We would plan for stuff that we knew there was no way it was achievable. I think we have to be more realistic than that and stuff. We shove stuff in the capital improvement program and, you know, in the out years and stuff, and it changes. So sometimes a 10-year capital improvement plan may not be the best idea. It's a plan, and it's some way to look at the future, but our future's changed so much now. But sometimes we budget or we plan for stuff in the CIP or in the comprehensive plan, and we have no way to get to the end. That's, to me, is a failure. That's just me personally. We're putting something in there we can't accomplish, and I just don't know why we do that. But, and again, that's just my personal opinion.
And if you do that sort of math, you might discover a lot of the green energy projects are cost effective. Solarizing our solar plus battery storage at our school bus garage might be the sort of project that makes a profit over 20 years.
Yeah. Okay, I will take a look at it, Charlie.
Thanks.
Hey, Tom, you had your hand up and down, which, Tom Burrell, do you have something to say?
I'm good. I was thinking along Charlie's lines, and one of the things that I see us do, since I live up here in Fairfax City, similar, only on a much smaller scale. But we never ask ourselves the questions. We put together a plan with a lot of action strategies and then never circle around and report to ourselves how we're doing. And we link things, you know, we might link a comprehensive plan objective to some development project that comes in, but we don't say, okay, has that development project fulfilled any of the action strategies that we have anywhere in the comprehensive plan? We might say, yeah, it's related to this objective at a higher level, but really have we accomplished anything other than just, you know, make ourselves feel good?
I hear you there, Tom. Absolutely.
Okay, so anybody else? Last chance.